Hey everyone, I'm back. Technology, I am telling you. Ooh, ooh. Welcome to Pop of Color Live, a music industry late night show for colorful bands and artists. I'm your host, Clara Charron. The clip that played just before was my first time ever managing to split the screen. So I had Dave Cool in my top corner. He's the director of artist and industry outreach at Bandzoogle. So we were talking about website design, website building. That was awesome. Thank you all so much for being awesome with that. I just couldn't figure out how to both kick him off and kick off his screen. So now we're going to do the new segment here. Thank you, Leonard. Welcome. I'm back. I'm so glad that it went off. That's the beauty of doing it live. I'm telling you, like, this is what YouTube was like when it first started. Back at the beginning, YouTube was revolutionary because all people had before was TV, and the TV was, you do 20 takes, it's perfect. You've got the lines, you've got the perfect lighting, you've got the perfect script. Everything is polished to perfection. And then YouTube came along and would just be people talking to their webcam. But since everything YouTube went towards the ads and went towards the YouTube celebrities and YouTubers, everything there got polished, and Facebook Live is the next frontier for when it comes to authentic, real life content. So that's why it's live, and that's why we have technical glitches from time to time. But I do not mind, because I just enjoy the authenticity. I enjoy just being able to be myself and not have to feel the pressure of having to be perfect on camera, which will enable my perfectionism to want to take 20 takes before I find one that's almost good enough. So let's just talk quickly about the news this week. So our top story is that Sony Music has liquidated 50% of their stock in streaming service Spotify, and they're committed to share it with their roster of artists. So artists and indie labels. That 50% that they sold is $750 million. Okay, that is a lot of money. So now we're gonna have some fun with math, and I'm gonna explain how they divvy it up. So if 750 million is 100% of the revenue they got from this deal, what they're doing is they're taking the percentage of the artist's contribution to Sony's Spotify revenue plus the artist's contribution to Sony's overall revenue, giving the 50% mean average total, and then dividing that by the percentage points negotiated in the record deal. So if I was able to get a blackboard and play teacher, that would be, I think, a lot easier for next time we do fun with math. But to give you an example, say an artist's contribution to, I'm just picking very simple numbers so that I can do it without having to show a visual. But let's say out of Sony's Spotify revenue, this artist brought in 1%. So they are one of the top artists at Sony. They brought, out of all the money Sony made on Spotify, 1% was coming from streaming this artist's songs. And when it came to this artist, hey Spencer, when it came to this artist's revenue, this artist's earnings as revenue for Sony in general, so whether that be CD sales or touring or licensing, that would be, let's say, 0.5%. So big on streaming, big on overall revenue. This is a big deal artist. So if you take, 1% and 0.5%, the mean average is 0.75%. So that would be 7.5 million plus 3.75 million, 11.25 million. If you add it up, no, hang on, I did this math wrong. Dang it, 75. Okay, so let's say that. Okay, so Why do I do math wrong? I'm so sorry. Math is not my forte. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, discovered you have to be good at math, and then went into the music industry instead. Anyway, so let's say they ended up with 11.25 million, which is the number I miscalculated. Then if their record contract says that they get 10 points they get 10 points. So for every album they sell that's $10, they get $1 back. They get 10% of the revenue, and the label keeps the 90%. They would get 10% of the 11.25 million. So that is my fun with math for the first part of the news segment of this week. Let's put that aside because we're going to come back to it later. Now, in the other corner, Spotify themselves is setting out to pay indie artists advances like record labels those traditionally do. Sources say they would be paying out several $100,000 advances to independent artists and management firms. While Spotify can't really do much in terms of radio promo or physical distribution, they do have other channels of they have other channels of promotion like marketing, playlisting, other sync perhaps, other ways they can get promotion for these artists to make it worth it. So what would the artists get out of getting offered this deal and accepting it? The artists would get the several $100,000 advance. They got to keep their master rights, unlike a traditional record deal where the record label would own the copyright. Record label would own the copyright to the song. So artists get the money, they keep their masters, and they potentially get better playlist positions and promotion. In the meantime, what Spotify would get would be they get to pay those artists less per stream in percentages. So while they may be fronting more money up front, over time, if they bank on artists who have long careers and who will have a lot of streaming potential, in the end, they will save money eventually in exchange for fronting up the advance. Spotify can get those artists into new markets before the majors say yes, because the major labels, with bureaucracy, with regulations, with legal forms, they hesitate. Whereas if an artist is blowing up in a certain region, or if Spotify is looking to expand their services to a new country, new geographical region, expand their marketing, if they have an artist who is in a deal with Spotify, they can get them there quicker. They don't have to wade through all the bureaucratic tape. And as well, if Spotify can do that and get these popular, via the power of playlisting, get more popular artists get more of the artists under their thumb who are very popular, exploding in new territories, and not affiliated with the record labels because they're independent, they have more negotiation power and clout when it comes to talking to the major labels for their artists. So if you want to take a look and a step back, Sony, so where we were at before, Sony, who sold 50% of their Spotify shares, splitting it with the artists, is essentially bribing them in exchange for good PR to show that major labels are relevant, good, benevolent shepherds who take care of their flock. And Spotify is trying to bribe artists to show that they don't need the major labels. And like that, if they can get more clout and show that, and if Spotify can try to show the major labels that they aren't as relevant anymore, then they can pay the major label artists less and have more power in the marketing table. Third piece of news this week, Snapchat is integrating with music-related services. These include Bandsintown, Patreon, Eventbrite, Pandora, and SoundHound. I have a link in the description of this video just so you can check that out, just in case you want to look at exactly what they're doing. I believe it's the Hypebot link. And lastly, for the news this week, Apple Music for Artists, which I mentioned a few weeks back, they're in beta testing mode. And if you are able to sign up, I still highly encourage you to do it. I did. I checked it out, because one of the criticisms with the Apple Music, the iTunes, and those kind of big distribution online stores is you don't get access to the analytics. Like Dave was saying in my talk with him earlier, being able to have direct sales with your fans means that you can know who they are and where they come from, versus if you put your music in the iTunes store or on Apple Music, you would get your royalties a few months later from your distributor, but you wouldn't know where you wouldn't know where in the world or any other information. What Apple Music for Artists is looking to do is change that and make it more so you can log in, you can see the data. This will help plan tours. This can help marketing, online promotion, that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend you look into it. It's very sleek. It's very cool. You just have to provide an Apple ID. So if you've ever used the iTunes store, or if you own an iPhone, MacBook, it's pretty simple. And stake claim on the artist or band name to show it's you, and wait for them to verify it. That is the news I wanted to cover this week. Have an excellent week. Be good to each other. Stay colorful. This is Clara, and I will see you soon.